After setting up the match with Steiner interrupting Goldberg's photo shoot during the first hour, the first ever Goldberg vs. Steiner match with plans for it to headline a major pay-per-view in the near future, took place towards the end of the 10:30 p.m. quarter on February 22 with Goldberg before an unusual placement of a commercial break midway through the match, sending the show to the break with one of the memorable spots of the year by overhead pressing Steiner seconds earlier, going 7 minutes in total to set up Rick Steiner's return from injury for the finish with the match, which went over 2 quarters and likely peaked much higher without the commercial break interruption, still drawing the peak of the night with a 4.9 rating. In its second unopposed week on what ended up the final Monday Nitro under the original Eric Bischoff era, with him leaving the company 3 days later, Nitro in the final build to the Fall Brawl pay-per-view saw the show headlined by a 6-man cage match involving the 3 top singles matches on Sunday, building up viewers throughout the night to go from 4.4 in the first hour to over 5.5 million viewers in the third, in Nitro's most watched hour in 6 months, seeing Goldberg, Hogan and Sting against Page, Seed and Steiner crossing past 11 p.m. to peak the show at 5.6 million viewers, with the final angle to the Hogan vs. Sting title match on Sunday setting up the Sting turn. With Raw starting at 11 p.m. for the next 2 weeks, WCW coming from the Nassau Coliseum with anticipation to draw its biggest TV audience in at least 4 months, saw Nitro, which was originally promoted to be headlined by a Goldberg vs. Page match, built on a show-long angle teasing a Hogan turn on Sting, with Luger stirring things up throughout, building to a Hogan and Goldberg segment in the third hour, leading to the promoted singles match turning into Goldberg and Hogan teaming up against Page, Bigelow and Kanyon in the main event, seeing the match going 5 minutes to peak the night with a 4.8 rating and over 5.6 million viewers. With the company still contemplating its next move following the end of the Bischoff regime last Monday, the second ever Nitro without Eric in charge saw WCW going with a different strategy of loading up the first hour by having a rare Goldberg match starting already at 8:25 p.m., going 3 minutes against Brian Knobbs before challenging Seed for the Havoc pay-per-view, followed by a Ric Flair promo right after the Goldberg match in a confrontation with Sting and Benoit, peaking big in the unopposed hour with 5.7 million viewers in WCW's highest-rated segment during the first hour since May, with the first hour overall doing a 4.2 rating, also the highest in 5 months. With a slight change to the new experiment of only officially kicking off at 9 p.m. when Raw goes on the air, the Nitro opening took place at 8:55 just as Ric Flair's limousine arrived to the building in time for the crossover segment today after turning heel to win the WCW title for the 14th time, starting a gradual double turn with Hogan to see Nitro going all out from the start, with Goldberg confronting Flair followed by Nash and Hogan coming out for a 4-way promo exchange to set up a massive tag match for the main event, with the big star power promo confrontation in the first quarter leading to WCW in one of the only times in show history maintaining the entire unopposed audience to open with a 5 rating in its highest rated segment in months, with the headline tag match almost 2 hours later seeing both companies putting on mega tag matches head-to-head, with Goldberg and Flair vs. Hogan and Nash going up against Austin and Mankind vs. Rock and White in the final quarter and overrun, seeing the matches going neck and neck with Raw having the lead in total viewers, but with Nitro's match picking up huge by the minute to spike over 2 million viewers for the duration of it, with the Hogan and Nash vs. Flair and Goldberg tag going 10 minutes, peaking past 11 p.m. with a 5.4 rating to slightly overtake Raw's 5.3 in the final recorded segment to outrate Raw head-to-head in show history. One of the most competitive Mondays in history on January 25 saw WCW putting on a loaded Nitro card with every major name featured either in hyped matches or show-long angles to counter Raw coming off the Rumble pay-per-view, resulting in one of the most unique viewing patterns in wrestling TV history, with both shows trading rating victories in every quarter for the rest of the night, seeing Nitro peaking midway through the third hour with Goldberg vs. Scott Norton driving the biggest spike of the night, with Nitro jumping over 900,000 viewers to overtake Raw with a massive swing from USA to TNT, going from a 4.8 to 5.9 in the previous quarter to a peak 5.5 rating lead over Raw's 4.9, by far Nitro's biggest margin and most watched full quarter of the night. After one of the most unusual hours of television in show history, with a new experiment of only going to the crowd in the building when Raw goes on the air, Nitro officially kicked off at 8:55 p.m. to go to the arena a minute from the top of the hour for a scheduled Goldberg interview, interrupted by David Flair calling out Rick to lead to a Goldberg-Flair confrontation, with them going face-to-face in the ring for the first time, setting up one of the biggest matches in show history to headline the broadcast, with the first ever Flair vs. Goldberg match, seeing Hogan and Nash coming out for commentary, with the entrances and first half of the Goldberg-Flair match coming minutes after a near-record gap from Raw, with Nitro being more than doubled in viewership, saw WCW picking up huge, going from the biggest gap of the night to by far the closest in minutes, jumping over 1.3 million viewers, and a direct turnover from Raw, which dropped almost the same amount at the same time, with Goldberg vs. Flair, which went head-to-head with an Austin vs. Mankind main event on the USA Network, continued to pick up huge in the overrun to bring WCW neck and neck with Raw after a 2-to-1 gap just a quarter earlier, going 9 minutes, with the match in total gaining over 2.3 million viewers to a peak 5.7 rating with over 6.4 million viewers. For the first time since going on the air in September 1995, WCW rebranded Monday Nitro on April 5 with the biggest marketing campaign and visual change to refresh the brand, starting the first show of the new era fast, with Bill Goldberg coming out to issue an open challenge for the Spring Stampede pay-per-view to bring out Nash to set up the Goldberg vs. Nash Starrcade 98 rematch for Sunday, peaking the first hour 40 minutes later in the segment, setting up a massive main event for the hyped broadcast, with Ric Flair after saying that he's taking away Hogan's shot at the pay-per-view to instead face him tonight, booking a new match for the title following a four-way confrontation with Hogan, Goldberg and Dallas Page all coming out for the shot in a segment doing an hour high of over 5.4 million viewers seconds before Raw went on the air, with the match close to 2 hours later leading Nitro to one of the biggest viewership spikes of the year, with the show after trailing by the biggest margin of the night minutes earlier, rebounding huge for the main event, gaining over 1.8 million viewers from a 3.8 to 5.4 rating to go neck and neck with Raw, with the Goldberg-Hogan-Flair-Page WCW title match going 11 minutes in the final quarter before crossing past 11 p.m. with the finish of the four-way match, followed by Sting's hype return after 6 months saved for the end of the show, peaking the rebranded Nitro in the 2-minute overrun with a 5.8 rating and 6.5 million viewers. With the wrestling audience increasing to levels never seen before to start 1999, WCW going unopposed for the first time in 5 months on February 8 was expected to approach record numbers, with a chance to get regular Raw viewers to sample the product for the first time since September 1998, with the show without Raw competition at 9 p.m. growing strong for the majority of the first 90 minutes to jump back into the 6 rating range, with Bam Bam Bigelow coming out for a promo to hype his upcoming pay-per-view match with Goldberg at Super Brawl, reading a recent Goldberg article from USA Today saying that he's not focused on their match to bring Goldberg out to end the segment with a big shoulder block and a quarter, jumping over 600,000 viewers to a 6.1 rating in one of the most watched hours of Nitro in show history, averaging 6.8 million viewers. One of the biggest nights in the history of wrestling television opened 1999 with the most hyped head-to-head battle in Monday Night War's history, matching expectations to shatter every viewership record for the industry on cable television, with WCW in front of a record crowd at the Georgia Dome for a show originally built on the Goldberg vs. Nash Starrcade '98 rematch, along with Hogan's farewell appearance and Flair's first night as the new president, starting a show-long twist 2 minutes from 9 p.m. with Goldberg getting arrested and taken out just as Hogan arrived to the stadium, seeing Nitro's biggest quarter coming 45 minutes later for the two segments setting up the new main event of Hogan vs. Nash, with Nash making the challenge to Flair to officially book the match, followed by Hogan making his TV return after almost 2 months out to accept it, bumping the show over 800,000 viewers to a 5.1 rating. With the Hogan vs. Nash title match, which included the reunion of the Outsiders with Scott Hall coming out in a Wolfpack shirt, along with the finger-poke swerve post-match Goldberg vs. NWO brawl in the Overrun, seeing WCW having one of the biggest viewership spikes in history, gaining over 2.6 million viewers in total to a peak 6.5 rating with over 7.5 million viewers, driving the broadcast on the record night to the biggest audience to ever watch Nitro on an opposed week.